Um, Welcome everyone. My name is Ihor Dvoretskyi. I'm a developer advocate at the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. These days, the huge conference is happening in the city called KubeCon Cloud Native Con, which is also organized by CNCF, and I'm here to share some insights on how can you get started as a contributor to the Cloud Native world. How can you get started with technical contributions to the CNCF projects or with contributions to the different areas of the Cloud Native space. So, first of all, just a brief overview slide of what CNCF is. So we started with the simple project with Kubernetes a few years ago. Today we have more than 30 projects that are covering different areas and different angles of the technology industry. And these projects that are highlighted on this slide, most of them are related to Kubernetes, but they are independent from Kubernetes itself. They can be complementary to each other, but they can also be used separately. So these days we have 4 graduated projects that are widely adopted across the world. It's Kubernetes, it's Prometheus, which is the monitoring tool. It's Envoy, which is the well-known service mesh service. It's CoreDNS, Containerd, which is the more container runtime built on top of Docker. Like it's the runtime, which is the core part of Docker as a container runtime. Fluentd and a couple of projects that are currently in the incubating stage. Besides that, we also have the sandbox, which is the where we also have the different OpenSUSE projects there in the sandbox, but they are not so well adopted at the moment, and they are not widely used right now. But we are offering the sandbox for the sandbox tier for the OpenSUSE projects as the way how can you, as the OpenSUSE project owner or contributor, where can you put your OpenSUSE project of the Cloud Native world, and to boost some visibility to your projects, to get more end users to your project, to get more contributors, and at the final end, you can move up from sandbox to incubation, which is listed on this slide. For example, one of the recent projects is OP, the Open Policy Agent, which joined CNCF more than 1 year ago as a sandbox project, and just a few weeks ago we joined the incubation stage. So we have enough projects, and these projects are all of them are open source and all of them are open for the technical contributions. So any of these projects, you can contribute to code, you can contribute to knowledge to any of these projects. So the brief overview, how can you get started as the CNCF contributor? So it's not actually the website, it's the GitHub page, but just highlights the basic principles and the basic errors of where can you get started as the CNCF contributor. So if you are a software developer, for example, and you'd like to put your experience into developing, for example, Kubernetes, you can check out these guides on GitHub, on the CNCF GitHub, highlighting the way how can you get started as the technical contributor, as the software developer, for example, for Kubernetes. Specifically for Kubernetes, we have the contributor guide, which is the few pages document highlighting all the possible errors where can you get started as a Kubernetes contributor. We don't have the similar guides for other projects, like so big guides, so diverse guides, and so detailed guides. At the same time, again, as I mentioned before, all these projects are open source, and all of them, it's one of the principal requirements for them to have the detailed information about how can you contribute there as a person from the outer world, not only from the contributing company, for example. So please check out these links if you're interested in contributing to the CNCF projects, which were listed on the previous slides. Another way of how can you get started and how can you contribute your knowledge to the CNCF, to the Cloud Native ecosystem, is to be the CNCF TOC contributor. So TOC itself is a technical governing body of CNCF. There are There are a bunch of people who are the TOC members, they're well experienced in this area. There are even a few people who had bootstrapped Kubernetes a few years ago, like around 5 years, 6 years ago, they bootstrapped Kubernetes inside Google. These days they're working at the different companies, but they are the members of the CNCF2C. And CNCF2C is the governing body that defines the strategy where we're moving to with our technologies. At the same time, anybody, not only the CNCF2C members, which are elected by the community or by the, some of them are elected by proposed by the governing board, anybody in the community can act as a TOC contributor, which is more like the advisory role. So you don't have the direct you don't make the final binding decisions on what should happen within CNCF, but here you have the advisory and influential role, like highlighting what is the community desire, what is the best way, what is the what community wants to see within CNCF, what kind of movement that can be put into CNCF as the technical organization. So as a CNCF2C contributor, you can just put yourselves there. There are open mailing lists. There are the CNCF2C meetings are also video meetings. They are public and recorded, so please check that out as well. And the basic information about how to be the CNCF2C contributor is also listed here on the CNCF GitHub. Besides that, we have a bunch of working groups within CNCF. So there are the CNCF projects, which are well-defined granular units of code base that are the units of some kind of technology that is developed by the group of people solving different things. At the same time, we have the working groups, which are not so solid as the projects themselves, but the working groups is mostly the group of people who are working on solving the different things with the cloud native community. So, for example, we have a few areas that are currently covered by the working groups, including CI, including networking, serverless, and storage. So, for example, we have a few networking projects that are, like, for example, service mesh projects. But the networking working group is the group of people who are mostly discussing the current movement in the networking era of the cloud native ecosystem. That may have some influential decisions on which kind of projects, for example, from the networking era can be accepted to CNCF and so on. So more details on the CNCF working groups as well you can find on the CNCF GitHub, together with the brief information about how can you join these working groups, how can you cooperate with folks who are working there, and how can you also be an active contributor to these areas, especially if you have already some experience in, for example, the networking era or storage era, serverless, CI, and so on. So depending on which kind of working group will you become. Besides that, we also have the end user community, which is which is widely adopted across the world and which is actively developed these days by CNCF. So the end user community is mostly intended for the companies, for people who are using the cloud native technologies, not only developing them as the vendors, for example, or as the service companies, not for the companies who are making business using them, not making business using the cloud native technologies, but they use the cloud native technologies for some different kind of business. For example, companies like Spotify or Reddit or New York Times, they're not developing or they're not offering any cloud native solutions because, for example, Spotify, we know that it's the worldwide music streaming platform. It has nothing related with the cloud native technologies, with Kubernetes, for example. They don't offer any Kubernetes offerings. They just build their platform, but they use the cloud native technologies on their own and under the hood of their current technology stack. And these companies are also, they currently have the influential way in the cloud native world because they are the companies that are consuming these technologies, that they are the companies that are using these technologies, and they are the companies that may require some functionality, for example, from these technologies from these communities to be developed there and to be implemented. So if you are working within the end user company and is consuming these technologies, or if you are one of them, you're the consumers of these technologies, please check out the CNCF end user community. We have the CNCF end user communities, like closed communities, so only the end user companies are able to participate there. But feel free to check out also the information on GitHub about the CNCF end user community on the CNCF website and on the CNCF GitHub about the way how can you interact with as the end user with the end user community. And the final part is that how can you contribute to the cloud native world as the community grows. So first of all, we have the CNCF Speakers Bureau. So it's mostly offered for the meetup organizers, this for example, or for the mid-size, the big-size conferences, like any kind of events that require any people who are proficient in the cloud native era. So we have the CNCF Speakers Bureau, which is the global database of all the music speakers who have signed up with the information about themselves. We have the list of profiles there. So if you, for example, if you are an experienced speaker about the cloud native technologies, if you are willing to speak in your local area or travel worldwide, so feel free to check this one. You can put also your name to the CNCF Speakers Bureau as a speaker, and you can be invited by the different conferences, events, meetups as a speaker. Or if you're a meetup organizer in any area, and if you're looking for the speakers for your specific event, or if you are a conference organizer, you're still looking for some speakers. So you can also use the Speakers Bureau as the single and big database of all people in the cloud native world who have agreed to speak at similar events. So feel free to check this website. It's on cncf.io. All the details are there about how can you join the Speakers Bureau as a speaker, or how can you consume it as the event organizer. Besides that, we have the CNCF Ambassadors program, which is the program for people who are mostly who are representing the cloud native community in their local area, for example, or who are the people that have really noticeable experience in the cloud native world and have enough to share with the local communities worldwide. These days we have a bit less than 100 ambassadors around the globe, almost on all the continents we have at least one ambassador. So the goal of this program was to make the next step for the CNCF meetups. Like if you are the experienced CNCF meetup organizer, you can step up as the ambassador and you'll receive the official CNCF ambassador badge and you'll be officially recognized by the CNCF community. There are not so many ambassadors, again, as I mentioned, there are less than 100 ambassadors across the globe. It's way smaller number than there are meetup organizers these days worldwide. But these people they're sharing their experience about the cloud native technologies. If you're interested in this program, all the information is here on the CNCF website about how can you be an ambassador if you're a meetup organizer, or if you're working closely with the cloud native community in your specific area, in your local area, or how can you, as a person who is interested in some kind of services that can be offered by the ambassadors, like speaking at your events, for example. You can also check out the big database of the ambassadors here on the CNCF website. And the final one is about the CNCF meetups. So as I mentioned before, there is the ambassadors program, which is like the next step after the meetups program. So the meetups program is the basic program. Different companies and different OpenSUSE foundations have the similar one. So that's the meetups program that's specifically targeted for the local events like this one. They are covering the cloud native technologies across the globe. So these days we have around 200 meetup groups on all the continents except Antarctica. But we we have a bunch of folks around the globe who are covering the cloud native technologies in their local cities. And if you are looking for some meetup in your local area, for the cloud native meetup or Kubernetes meetup, so free to check the information here about that, which is the closest one to you. If you're willing to speak, also the information is here. And if you are considering to be the CNCF, to be the CNCF meetup organizer, and if you'd like to apply, also all the information is here. The process is pretty straightforward, so you have to just confirm that your meetup group is active. You have to run like around 3 or 5 meetups in a row. Just send us a few links, and that's it. And you can be accepted here. As the meetup organizer, you can receive also some extra benefits by CNCF, like we're covering your meetup Pro account fees. We can also offer you some complimentary swag for your events, like T-shirts, stickers, and so on. And you will also have the access to the wide variety of services that CNCF may offer, including the speaker group. So that's all from me for now. Again, as I mentioned before, it's going to be like the short presentation about the CNCF contribution and the community engagement. So I'm ready for your questions if you have any. Sure.
How to become CNCF developer at Adobe?
Well, there should be an open position for that. We don't have it at the moment. But please check the careers page on the Linux Foundation website if there will be any.
Okay, thank you.
But if you're looking for the full-time employment, I just answered your question. But if you're looking to be a person who looks like the developer advocate, who can work for a different company, but who is doing the same job and is basically doing it right here, you can be an ambassador. So we don't have any limits on our ambassadors, depending on where you're based and which kind of stuff are you doing in the cloud native community. You can be an ambassador. You can just apply. You have to have some good track record of your previous achievements, like running the meetup groups or the conferences, or just to be the well-recognized person in the cloud native world. But it's basically the same. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you.